Redditors who have seen a UFO, Bigfoot, or any other mythological creature. What is your story, and how did the people you know react to your story? Okay, so I have a story that happened to me and my friends. To set the scene, we were on a Boy Scout camping/shooting trip. There were 20 to 30 of us. We were in a little cabin thing with windows on the front and back and a front and back door. There were wooden tables all around the area. The adult cabin, with the bathroom, was about 1/8 of a mile down a gravel road in the dark. There was obviously a buddy system because it's Boy Scouts. So it's around midnight, and everyone had been telling scary stories like normal camping trips. Well, I had to go to the bathroom and asked my friend to come along. He said sure, and he got our knives. We knew that there were bears in the woods, and it made us feel safer. Well, we went to the bathroom and began our walk back. This is where it got scary. I felt an instinctual, not sure if that's the right word, fear. I looked to my friend and he had the same look as me. We begin to walk a little faster and unfold our pocket knives. I then turn around and see it. It looked similar to a cat, but it was about 6 feet tall and was on its hind legs, kind of hunched over. I freaked the heck out and started running. My friend sees it too, and we sprint back to the cabin. It began making a moaning/howling noise. It was somewhere between the two, and followed us slowly. We pound on the door and the guys let us in. We tell them what we saw and they actually believed us. So we lock the front door and look at the back door. It had no lock. We pushed a table up against it and had a kid there with his knife for safety. We draw the blinds on all the windows that had them, one of them didn't, and we sat there with all the lights on. Then we see the eyes outside of the windows without blinds. We were all shitting ourselves, and the thing slowly walked to the back door. We heard it bumping up against it, maybe trying to open it, we think. It then left, but we still thought we were going to die. No one slept. When the adults came to wake us up, we told them, and they laughed and said we were making it up. We know it happened, even if they don't believe us. I've lived out in the middle of nowhere for about 10 years. I'm a smoker and a night owl. I smoke outside, so I've seen some strange things. Distant points of light changing course and shooting off at extreme speeds, probably meteorites deflecting off the atmosphere. I really don't think a visiting intelligence would have lights on a spacecraft. I've seen several instances of things like that, maybe a dozen or so times. But the only thing I've seen that gave me chills and baffled me was a black oblong object, think cylinder/thermos, floating through the sky. It was darker than the night sky behind it, utterly silent, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I recall the night being completely silent too. No crickets, no cicadas, just silence. This was in the middle of summer. I told my family and they just shrugged their shoulders. Finally, a chance to tell my story. About 10 years ago, my family and I were up in the White Mountains of Arizona to cut down our Christmas tree. My dad was driving our truck with my grandpa in the front seat and my mom and sister in the back seat. I was in the bed of the truck along with our family's German short-haired pointer. We were driving along a forest road and all of a sudden my dog starts barking and growling. So I look to see what it is, thinking it is maybe a bear or mountain lion. What I saw was a tall, dark figure walking parallel to the road about 60 to 70 yards away. I yelled at my dad to stop the truck. When I told him I think I see Bigfoot, he just laughed and continued to drive. When I looked back to get another look at it, the figure had changed directions and was walking away from the road. The last thing I saw was the thing's head disappearing down a hill. To this day, I still do not have an explanation for what I saw. Every time this situation comes up, my dad always makes me tell everyone my story, just so he can laugh at it. When I was about 10 years old, I went on a field trip with my 4th grade class to a summer camp. For the most part, it was a typical experience. Rafting, bad food in the mess hall, hiking, campfires, etc. Hell, one of my friends did the typical movie thing and brought dirty magazines from home. We were supposed to be there for 4 days. I only lasted about 2. It was late at night because I stayed up to do the trash duty and clean the mess hall. After I picked up the final granola bar wrapper, I made my way to the showers to clean up before turning in for the night. Halfway through, I hear a loud, shuffling sound outside the showers. I stop what I'm doing and listen intently, but the shuffling stops. I assume it's my friends pranking me as they typically do and get out of the showers. Just to put this into perspective, the showers in the boys' cabin are a good walk away with no way to illuminate your surroundings. That's why they shower before dark and with groups to make sure nobody gets lost. For someone like me who's by himself having to navigate his way through the woods, it's pretty terrifying. To make matters worse, the flashlight I brought was back at the cabin, so I was stuck having to navigate my way back with a piece of shit lantern that barely gave me enough light. So anyway, I grab the lantern and start my walk to the cabins. About halfway through, I hear this ungodly loud moan coming from right in front of me. I panic and drop the lantern, running in the opposite direction of the sound. I can't see anything, and in my haste, I fall on something. I examine the thing I fell on and realize it's squishy and soaking wet. I hear the moaning again from behind me and book it to the direction of the cabins. I'm instantly greeted by 3 flashlights and concerned looks. Apparently the other campers heard the moans and the counselors went to investigate, only to find me, covered head to toe in blood. They brought me back to the cabin, and I'm immediately bombarded with questions about what I saw. My friends shut them up after a while. The next day I went home. Can you blame me? I was not going to stay there after the shit I've been through. I almost forgot about this incident until a while ago when I was reminiscing about this with one of my friends who stayed at the camp. I asked him what happened after I left, and what he told me sent a shiver up my spine. Apparently after I left, the moans at night got louder and closer to the cabins and freaked everyone out, and as for the big mound I fell on, while the counselors were investigating the source of the moaning, they found a deer on the trail I was on. The head was ripped clean off and its entrails were laying in a separate pile next to the carcass. That's my encounter. To this day, it remains the scariest experience I've ever had in my life. Everyone I've told thinks that I'm bullshitting it, but my friends who were there always defend me. I still don't know what was in the woods that night. Cool. Been waiting for something like this. I saw a series of UFOs for about a week. It was all I could talk about. They looked like satellites but moved. I can't even explain it well. The best way to say would be fireflies, but that doesn't do it justice. Anyway, I got labeled as the UFO guy, and much humor was found at my expense. 2 weeks or so later, we had our annual family reunion camping trip, and around the fire, the UFO guy humor started. 2 minutes or so into the amazingly funny jokes, a UFO, exactly like I had been talking about, flew directly overhead. With as much douchebaggery as I could possibly muster, I pointed up and said, "Just like that right there." Dead silence vindicated, and no more UFO jokes. Quick at-work edit. I am very skeptical about UFO sightings overall. 99% of the time, while cool, they can be explained by something very boring. I like to think with the vastness of the universe we aren't alone, but who knows? I have seen probably hundreds of satellites in my life. In my opinion, these were not satellites. Whatever this was swarmed like bees or fireflies. I hate to say it, but to me it looked like there was intelligence behind the movements. Also, satellites that I know of and have seen in the past do not accelerate and decelerate at phenomenal speeds. I'm not saying aliens. I am saying I have no idea. Black Project, new, not public tech, something that was pretty damn cool. I'll go into more description after I get home from work if anyone is interested. Edit, 'cause my first popular post among all accounts. The first night it happened, I waited about 5 minutes just to make sure it wasn't something that could easily be dismissed, and then started yelling like a 4-year-old who had too much candy for my wife to come out. She wasn't fast enough, so I ran inside yelling like a moron, woke up all the kids and dragged the wife outside. Her response was something like, "That's neat, I don't know what it is either, but all the kids are awake and I can tell you are going to sit and watch while I deal with them." The nights after that, her response was, "Yep, neat, don't you dare wake up the kids." As far as pictures, my SLR, camcorder, and multiple phones couldn't see anything. I tried messing with the SLR to get pics, but all I accomplished was making the wife mad because her pics turned out horrible after that. At the camping trip after my vindication, there were about 2 minutes of silence and someone said, "So the Vikings, American football team, should be good this year." I said, "Oh hell no, we aren't going to pretend that didn't just happen." Consensus was very weird, but no idea what it was. Everyone there thought it was strange enough that honestly I haven't had another UFO joke thrown at me. When I was deployed to Afghanistan, one of my frequent tasks was to help the guy flying the Raven, small UAV with an IR camera on it, at night, looking for insurgents planting bombs in the roads. Usually pretty boring. One night, however, we noticed a circular hotspot in the corner of the camera's view. After flying around a bit to get a better view, me and the operator were wondering what in the hell this featureless hot sphere was. In white/cold black/hot, this thing was solid, darkest black, and was unmoving for about 5 minutes, after which it rapidly moved down, nearly to the ground. We were flying at about 1,600 feet AGL, then back up into the sky and out of range of the Raven. We called up the TOC about this UFO. They said it must have been a glitch. They had nothing on satellite view in that area. When we went back to review the footage, kept on a specialized Tough Book laptop, the 5 minutes with the UFO in it were missing. On a commercial fishing boat, us and another boat saw this thing, a UFO, 10 feet above my head. Silent, 3 lights triangle pattern, size of a car maybe. Brightest lights ever that left no light on the deck of boat but was blinding looking up at it. The UFO followed us for 20 seconds, then it literally vanished. Vanished in the blink of an eye. I will go into more detail if anyone asks, there's plenty more to the story. Edit. So back maybe 3 years ago I was working on a commercial fishing vessel. We were in Casco Bay, Maine, right outside Harpswell. It was dark out, maybe 10 at night. We had a small fleet going, just a few boats. We were chasing fish around all day but no luck, so decided to just head home and start fresh in the morning instead of tossing our anchor out and spending the night. About 20 minutes after we part ways from the other boats, we get a call over the radio. ORTT, come in. ORTT, this is FV Main Squeeze. I hail him back and he goes on telling me and the captain that right that very moment there was a UFO about 15 feet above his boat, and asking if we still had visual on his vessel, which we did not. Before we got any more info from him, the radio cut out, just like that. Only static when he tried to talk. Me and the skip just brushed it off thinking he was playing some weird prank. Laughed it off and that was that. About 1 minute later, I light up a cigarette and walk out to the deck, and that's when it happened. I shit you not, 10 to 15 feet above my head is a friggin' UFO, about the size of a car. 3 of the brightest lights in triangle formation on the bottom of this craft. Like I said above, the lights being that bright did not leave any light on the ocean or on the deck of our boat. Like none at all. I'm trying to call out to the skip, but nothing was coming out of my mouth at all, and I was in such disbelief. Finally, I was able to get him out on the deck. As we are staring at this thing with our jaws on the floor, we realized it's staying the exact same distance above us. As our boat is dipping up and down on the waves, the craft stayed the same exact distance, adjusting up and down as our boat went up and down. We were in so much shock, I guess you can say we forgot that no one is running the boat. All of a sudden, the boat stops on a dime, going maybe 16 knots to 0 instantaneously. We both fall to the deck of the boat from the sudden stop and look right up and find the craft nowhere in sight. It was just above us 3 seconds before that. We assumed we hit an underwater ledge or rocks or something. There was no other way our boat could stop that quick. We are checking our sonar and electronics, but the strange thing is, this is not the shallow part of the bay. That area was about 60 feet deep. There was nothing. No way we hit something. Basically, whatever that thing was somehow stopped a 40-foot fiberglass fishing boat like nothing, then vanished, literally into thin air with no trace. The captain of the other boat refuses to talk about his encounter. Luckily, my captain does not like to talk about it, but he will at least acknowledge that it happened, so I don't look like a wingnut telling this story. To this day, I haven't a clue what we saw that night, and I don't know if I'll ever find out, but it changed my life, and now when people tell their own stories, I listen and don't just write it off anymore, because I know there is some weird stuff out there.